Welcome to In the Gutter, a brand new podcast from the Bookstore and also recorded in our brand new studio. Today, our guest will be Jonathan Gagne, who is a fitness trainer and also a super uber huge comic book geek. And he will talk to us about his new podcast, Wellness in the Multiverse. Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you. This is very fun, by the way. This is very professional, so I don't know how I need to be appropriate or not.
You don't need to be anything more than yourself. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you with us. I'm curious, how long ago, when did you start to be a comic book fan?
Well, comic book fan, I think, I don't know exactly about comic book. Well, I have an idea, but like a fan of animes and comics and everything kind of started with Goku back in the days when it came to North America, right? So I was, well, I mean, I may have been like 12 years old, something like that. And I would come back from school, go downstairs, watch, Dragon Ball Z, and I would see like Goku getting beat up and having, had to all those challenges and facing all those challenges and then trying to get better and better and better. And then he goes to that little planet that I forget the name. I'm blanking on the name, but he dies, has to run on some sort of like bridge forever and ever to get to a planet where there's more gravity. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. He has to work out now in a different, gravity situation that will get him stronger. So I wonder what would happen if I put my dad's boots on, because they're heavier than mine. So I would put my dad's, work boots on, and then I would just start jumping. And I was like, oh, this is heavier. And then I would take them off and be like, oh, I'm so light. Great, I'm Goku, So that was kind of the start of that. So that was, initially all of this. I've always been, interested in those world and superhero movies and all of this. But comic books specifically, it's when I came in Montreal. So I was fully adult, 2012 or something like that. And I was at, I don't remember the store, but I bought... it's the Green Lantern Rebirth and Flash Rebirth, right? Jeff Jones. So I just saw the cover. I was like, oh, you know what? I've always wanted to read one of those stories and all of this. I was like, man, I'm just going to buy one. See, if it's any good, interesting, whatever. I had no idea. I know I wanted them as a kid, but I was into sports a lot. I was playing hockey and everything. So, I was also playing, I had like two group of friends, which was weird. On one side, I was playing hockey at night and having those, guys, like big, tough guys. And on the other side, I was playing D&D with my friends and I was, playing video games and everything. So I always had those two worlds. And then I saw the comics, bought them, started to read them, and it spiraled out of control. Now I have no more space anywhere to put them. It's madness. And then I started buying the paperbacks at first. So for a while, I bought the paperbacks, and then you guys came into Hochelaga and got the bookstore open. It was next to my gym, so I would go to the gym, work out, come here, buy my floppies, because at that point I was like, I'm just going to buy some floppies, buy the floppies, and I've been doing that for, how long have you been open?
We're starting our seventh year.
7th year? So 7 years.
Yeah.
So
wow.
for the last 7 years, every single week, I just buy my little floppy, I read them. I'm a bit behind on them now, but I read them. I enjoy that. And so that's kind of the, superhero world I'm in. And obviously the movies and everything. So that's my upbringing into the superhero
Super
and,
world.
and that type of world.
And what about fitness? Where were you interested in fitness, and where does it fit in between?
So fitness seems more natural
Yeah.
to me when people look at me. Uh, I know, guys, you can't see me, but I look like a douchebag. So I play hockey. I've always been, into sports. So it makes sense, to see that. And for a while, I was working in TV station. I was a video editor for about 11 years, and I was working out. I was, just doing my thing.
Keeping in shape.
Yeah, just that, living my lifestyle. And people would start asking questions on to how and why I got to do this. And, they would see my physique and be like, oh, are you a trainer? Do you do this? Whatever. And I wasn't too much interested in that at first, but I started to not be too interested into post-production anymore. I wanted to help people a bit more. So I got certifications and all of that and became a coach. So the fitness thing came out more of I was a skinny guy in high school, wanted to get a bit bigger for my hockey because I would get hammered all the time. So I just wanted to be like slightly bigger for hockey. And then I just enjoyed that. And then I just liked working out and doing this. And as I was working out, then, I kind of grew into my own body. And yeah, and then it just kind of randomly happened.
From
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool because when you mentioned the idea that you had to merge the fitness and the comic books in a podcast, and even just like I thought it was a wonderful idea, and I know you were able to interview like some stuntmen and people like the Thor stuntman, I think.
I've done some interviews. Yes, I've done an interview with Peter Hoare, who did directing on Daredevil. He did Last of Us. He did a bunch of those movies. I've done one with the stuntman of Nightwing and the Titan show.
Oh, yeah.
And then I've done some with more people that are more into fitness, right? And then I try to bring them into my world a bit. So the idea of combining the two wasn't as organic as it would seem, because at first I was keeping them very separate.
Okay.
At first I was working out on and for the internet, right? I was just working out, and this is like, I'm a coach and you want motivation, this is how you get it. So I was doing that. And then on my personal side, not a lot of people knew I was a geek at the time, or some type of geek. And when I say that, people get angry sometimes when I say I'm a geek. They're just like, I don't know, can you build a computer from scratch? I'm like, in a way, is that the definition of, I don't know.
Yeah, people get hang up on they hang up on weird things sometimes. Like being a geek is just enjoying pop culture.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. So that's my idea inside of geekness. But yeah, so I had that side, but just to myself a bit. I would go home, I would read my comics, I would watch the movies, and then I would just get to the gym and talk about bench pressing. So it was all of those two separate things. And then I don't know how or why this happened. At some point I just got, I don't know, maybe bored of having them separate, and I was just online. I was just like, guys, I'm a geek, as I was coming out of something, and and it just happened. So I started like merging in my text, fitness to superheroes, to how Superman would do this and Batman would plan, and this. My most recent one is how to plan what, like Batman, basically. So I just talk about how I just take the idea of this superhero on itself and be like, this is Batman. He plans a bunch of stuff and he's very functional. And then I relate that to, the workouts and how people can do that for themselves as well and all of this. So it slowly came organically, but that just, spiraled basically.
Spiraled.
And now I have a lot of people that follow me that just come to me like, hey, by the way, I just enjoy, superheroes as well, and this is awesome. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I just wanted to talk about that, and people just gravitated towards that. And I think I've like inceptioned people now, which is awesome, by the way, because now they think I'm a superhero. So this is awesome because every comments, everything, they're like, just like, oh, you're a superhero. You are my superhero. And I'm like, yeah, guys, I got you. I got you. I'm not one, but I've done it so often now that you think I'm one. So yeah.
Is there a specific comic book story that inspired you in one of your fitness bits, or is just generic? Like, really, is just try to merge everything together?
It was just trying to merge everything together, but I think one specific one would come back to Goku. Just with my understanding now of fitness and my, how I got to 135 pounds to 185 pounds. When you look at what they did on that show, it is absolutely not random. I don't know who their fitness coordinator was. Akira Toriyama knows his thing, about fitness for sure, because he does everything everyone needs to do. It's progressive overload. He goes from doing some push-ups to like handstands push-ups to like one fingers push-ups, like increasing gravity to so gradually get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, which is progressive overload, right? It's a process in fitness. And then you would see him, getting beat up, and just obviously he's a Saiyan, so in his blood he just comes back stronger. But we also do that whenever we get to a failure point in fitness. Then from that point on, your body will react to that and get stronger. And this is how we improve and get stronger. So in a way, we're the same as him, but he's just like...
Oh, there's a supernatural component to it.
Yeah, exactly. But nonetheless, the base is there. And then he would just sleep a lot, so rest, recovery, and he would eat a bunch. So again, food and all of this. So it was, the first initial one was him for those aspects, because it was easy, because it's just like, he's done everything, right? Yeah. He's focused on that. And then it just grew out of that. And it was just like, Thor, having his power, it's very complicated to work out when you have that types of, powers, because you want to get bigger, but the process stays the same. You need stronger loads every time. Yeah. So the idea is just fun to go from, it would have started from lifting a rock to a bigger rock to a bigger rock to then having a ship like being pulled, and then, so those ideas stays the same. And I just try to see who's doing what in terms of like superhero and how they operate. And then I'm like, well, Superman is strength. And then, Batman is more, athletic and functional, yet he's big. So how does that work? And yeah, so Nightwing is one that, is very athletic and would do backflips. So Nightwing cannot be 225 pounds of muscles. No, exactly. Impossible, right? Yeah. He has to lift himself so much to do that. He has to be lean, and 160 pounds maybe, very lean. So that's, now I take more out of, everyone and everything. But initially it was that Goku.
That Goku impulse.
Yeah.
and do you talk, because like superhero and fitness, it's also as an emotional component, like the mental aspect of it. Do you talk about that in the?
I tried to talk about it a bit. I remember. Well, I've talked about one recently where it was just. I think the title is something like "Find Your Justice League." So I do touch on mindsets and all of this, because in a way, the idea of like Justice League is that they're a bunch of people that supports each other, right? Yeah. And this just it. So I took that idea of like support system and all of that, and just expanded it to everyone of like, well, have the good people around you, find the good people around you. So I try to touch on that aspect, and motivation and mindset and all of it. One that worked very well in terms of one I've done is motivated like Captain America. So I talk about, the fact that I don't believe in motivation. I believe in, intrinsic motivation of like the things you have to do, and so I related that to one we all know as Captain America, and
Yeah.
it kind of happened from there. So yeah,
Because he was a skinny dude, but he's very motivated in belief, in his own belief.
yeah. There's nothing, his phrase "I can do this all day" it's a catchy phrase, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's how he feels. He's going to. I remember as I was doing that podcast, I remember the scene in Endgame where he I don't remember if he has Mjolnir at the time. Well, he can have it. We know that, but he's just facing Thanos' army alone and just straps his injured arm to his broken shield, and he's just like, he's gonna go. He has no idea that people are coming. He's just gonna go. So he knows that's it.
That's who he is.
Yeah, that's who he is. So I take those aspects and then I flip them on their head just a bit to kind of relate them more to people, because I think all those stories have those ideas in there. And I think that's also, for me, comics is this, I love the art. I love, the grand story of that. But I'd rather have those little stories in there of those, struggles of heroes and those ideas, because when you look at it, and people hate me when I say that Superman is one of the ones I love the most, because they're like, well, he's boring. He has all the powers. Nothing can stop him. I'm like, yeah, you're right. In a way, you're right. But that's also it. He has all the powers. Why is he not like in control of everything and just the world? In art, we are just the little ants, And why does it still struggle with all those little aspects? And the most recent one, I think it's, I'm behind a bit, but one of the recent ones is Superman Lost, where he gets lost in space for Lois and everyone. It's like, a blink of an eye, but for him it's like years, and that's in finding himself, and he comes back, he's not too sure of like what's going on. And those ideas are interesting to me, and those are the ones that I like talking about, and I enjoy talking about in the podcast, because I think those are the things that people relate the most to, but they think of comics and everything as totally different than this, and just like, oh, it's like biff buff dudes, bashing on themselves.
People seem to think it's just for kids, or it's very simple. But some stories, not all stories are equal, but some stories are very, very profound.
There are stories that are just that, people bashing on each other.
Yeah.
They happen, from time to time, and we do have now movies coming out that are just that too.
Yeah,
but which is why I watch them every year. So all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, from December, it's like my marathon about every year. I do that with Star Wars as well. And I rewatched it again this year. It was like from phase 1 to 4, it's just, we have so many moments of these things happening, of Caps, bracing themselves, of fights between themselves, or of growth, of all of this that is missing a lot in the following phases. But I think those things are what people relate to and go towards. And again, this is what I just like. I just enjoy talking about these things. It's just fun. So I like talking about fitness. I like talking about, working out, and I like talking about superheroes. So it was like, why not talk about all of it? And I just started to talk about all of it. And it came also to a point of gives me more things to talk about, And I feel that's personal to me, but to me, it's more interesting. To me, I'd rather be saying how Captain America stays motivated rather than just like, guys, this is how you can be motivated. Step 1, get your ass up. So that's, yeah.
Well, actually, it's interesting because it also gives, like, technically the heroes, the superheroes are models, right? But they're also very human. You were talking about Superman earlier. Like, the difference with Superman has all the powers, but somehow he's an alien, but he tries to be a human,
Yeah.
and that's probably his main weakness and force at the same time.
Yeah, it's his strength, it's his weakness. He wants to be human, yet but again, he could do nothing. He
Yeah.
hears everything.
Yeah,
And every day he hears everything and he knows everything. And every day he has choices to make too. So you could imagine just being sitting here right now and knowing right now someone is getting beat up in an alley and then someone else is struggling on something. And you just hear all of those things, but you need to choose one.
Yeah.
And you need to be like, all right, so everything is happening all at once, but this one I need to get, to check out. And in a recent comic of Superman, he just sits on a big like metal beam in the construction sites, and he just eats with someone who he helped not killing themselves, and just eat with that person and just talks about that and just have dinner. And the guy's just like, you don't have to do that, just being here and have dinner with me. Like, no, I know, just enjoy it, and he just decides and chooses to be there at that time, even though a bunch of other stuff are happening. It's just like, that's the human things to do,
Yeah.
So those are always, fun and interesting. So that's why also to me Superman is very interesting in that way. And why I get mad when people tell me it's boring. I'm like, he's not.
I'm one of the person who tells him he's boring. I find the characters really hard to write for.
Yeah.
But when you do, it's actually magic.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a few stories.
And that's true. And I understand the fact that, we only have a weakness to go on, which is kryptonite. And then you get that and you're good. You can beat him up. But if you don't, he's going to beat you up. Because he has... Well, now he has even more power.
Even more powers than before.
Yeah, so it's on the power side, that's true. But on the human side and on the, internal aspect of Superman, he's very ground. I mean, I don't know what would happen if Batman had those powers.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's true. No, and that's the thing. That's when the stories are interesting, when they make him a real person and try to explore more his own like self-doubt, his own like his own fears, all that stuff. Or I don't know if you read the American Alien.
Maybe.
That was a really good Superman story. Like, it's one of my favorite Superman stories, where basically we visit Superman at a different time in his life, when he was 3 years old and he was just a kid with powers, and his parents were trying their best so he doesn't destroy the house, all the way to his first day at the Daily Planet. And every time it was a different part of his life. And when he was a teenager, he was getting in trouble and he had powers. And then his parents realized that if we don't do anything, it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah.
And so it's really, and then you see the struggle as a child too, to understand where he fits in all of that. And it was very human, those stories. And I think that.
Yeah, these are just the best. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a big guy bashing on big people. And we know that he's going to win.
Yeah.
But then there's different things happening, and Injustice is a proof of that.
Yeah.
Where he just goes crazy.
He becomes a dictator.
Yeah. Snaps. The Joker, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Now I have the world.
Yeah.
So we know we can do it.
Yeah.
Now it's just a matter of like having those ideas of humans and everything, and I think that's what's interesting in those comics and in every comics, when they're well written, obviously. But
yeah. No, that's cool. And do you have any advice for the listeners who are inspired by superheroes and want to start a fitness journey?
Yeah, do some push-ups right now. I mean, well, first you can follow me. That would be one thing. No, honestly, I think it's just finding what people love. I think I'm just lucky that I like working out. It's just something I love to do. There's a bunch of sports. There's a bunch of things that people can do. And I don't know, find your favorite superhero just look at what he does. If it's Batman, easy. You know what you need to do. You need Alfred.
Yeah.
If you don't have Alfred, then there's other ways to figure it out. But you need food. I was gonna say sleep, but that's not true. He doesn't sleep. But functionality, some types of strength, endurance, and you need to be able to do a pull up. So start there. If you look at Superman, or you look at strength, you look at Hulk, you look at the strength. So you can look at those heroes, characters, and kind of build your fitness around that idea and those processes. And and I think drink more water.
Yeah, water is important.
Drink more water.
Hydration.
No one drinks any water anymore. Like, what's going on?
Where can we listen to your podcasts?
It's on YouTube, Wellness in the Multiverse, and it's also on Spotify and a bunch of other stuff.
Apple.
I don't know about Apple. I know on Prime. It's on Prime. It's on Spotify.
Okay.
It's online also on a random online link of the RSS whatever.
RSS
but you can also just look me up on Instagram and everywhere at Joe Gagne Trainer, and then all the links are in there. Yeah.
Jonathan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, and I look forward to listen to the new ones.
Thanks.
Thank you.